Hey guys, so I'm going to do a few videos this week to catch up with the Q&As because I'm quite far behind. I want to apologise to everyone who's asked a question I haven't got to you yet. I am way behind, as you're about to see, so let's get on with it. Yuri asks, Hi Lewis, a fan of history from Russia is here. Thank you so much for everything you do on your channel. My big question for you is related to Russian/Soviet sources. Have you used any Russian or Soviet books in your work? I see you quote a lot from German and other Western authors, like you do in your Curlin series. However, I see just a couple of Soviet memoirs, like in Stalingrad videos. Okay, so the obvious problem is that I can't read Russian, and this is a big problem. A while back I decided, well, I could either learn Russian or German, and I guess German makes more sense because I can then not only read books for the Eastern Front, but also the Western Front and the North African campaign, so that makes sense. You know, the Germans fought on every front in Europe, so it makes sense to do that. So I chose German, but the problem is I wasn't able to do what I did with like learning guitar, where you just kind of, for 6 weeks or whatever, you just sort of sit there and learn it properly. I couldn't do that. I've had to kind of do it in drips and drabs, which isn't ideal. So my German is not good. Let's put it that way. Meine Deutsch ist nicht good. So I am really far behind when it comes to learning German, and then it's like, well, I've no chance getting to the Russian, so I haven't done that. So the issue is that I'm kind of reliant on the Russian translations, or the English translations of Russian books, and they're not really widely available. So in the Stalingrad series, I have used Churykov's memoirs. I'm going to use Zhukov's memoirs, although his has been censored a lot, and I have some other books which were translated from the Russian, but the problem is that the majority I don't have. So I am now reliant on Anton Jolly, who is able to read the Russian and is providing me with translations. And you say here, I'd like to recommend some modern historians who will definitely be useful for your future researches and who are published in English. And then the first one you say is Alexei Isayev, I'm going to get this name right this time, who has apparently written a huge number of books on various topics of World War II. What's great about Alexei's work is that he uses both Soviet and German documents from all available archives. So when he writes about some battle, we view every event from both sides, and he gives a 3D picture of it. That's very true. Anton Jolly translated Alexei Isayev's book about Stalingrad, the Stalingrad campaign, or at least the first section of it, and I use that, even though it's not been translated into English yet, I use that in the series, the first season. But Alexei Isayev's book does come out later this month, so fantastic. So there you go. I am using it. I also used his book for the Dubno video, and I can confirm that the book was badly translated. It wasn't Isayev's fault, it was in fact the translator of that book. I just hope the Stalingrad book is a lot better than that. So I do use Isayev. You then list Artem Drabkin, who has done interviews with veterans. I haven't actually come across his book at all, so I guess if I come to use that topic or do a video on that topic, I'll use it, but I haven't needed to. I think I have seen in one of his books actually, but I haven't needed to use it. That's part of the reason why. And then you list Bear Shiev, yeah, I'll do, who dedicates himself to the Finnish conflict. Well, I've only done like 1 or 2 videos on Finland, and both were from either the Finns' perspective or the German perspective, so I've not had to use the Soviets' perspective on that. So if and when I do, or if I do ever do a Battlestorm Finland, much further in the future, then I will use his book. But he doesn't really have much else outside of that, so I've not had to use his book yet, and that's the reason why. Do you know of any decent books on combat engineering during the World Wars? It seems that this was a great time for innovation in this regard, but I do understand it is a bit of a niche topic. There's not a book specifically on combat engineering that I can think of at least, but I'm going to recommend Island of Fire, The Battle for the Barricade Gun Factory in Stalingrad by Jason DeMarg. Now, the reason why, and in fact, I think he's got another book as well on a very similar sort of topic, which is about a combat engineering battalion. So it's not specifically on combat engineering, it's about these engineering battalions going into action at the Battle of Stalingrad. And this book's all about that, because the Island of Fire, basically, what ends up happening is Palace needs more reinforcements. Hitler and others decide, well, let's send reinforcements to Stalingrad. And what they do is they go, hey, all the nearby German divisions, send your combat engineer battalions in. And then, because it makes sense to do that, because it's city fights, it makes sense to send in combat engineers who've got flamethrowers and whatever else, so they can go in and sort it out. So that's what ends up happening. And they get thrown in against basically the Barricade Gun Factory. And so this book, it's not exclusively about the combat engineers, as far as I'm aware, but it is, look at the maps and stuff going on in there. But it is really detailed, and you get to hear a lot of what they're doing in the combat. I haven't got the other book. I can't remember what it's called now. That's specifically about one engineer battalion, a pioneer battalion. I haven't read that, but if it's anything like this, it'll be pretty decent. Every book that I've got from the Leaping Horseman so far has been great. Croatian Legion, Panzerkrieg, all the big ones. One of my biggest regrets is not getting the 24th Panzer Division, the Leaping Horseman book, in physical form, because it is, every single one of these books, brilliant maps, well laid out, one of the best sort of looking, some of the best looking books you'll ever get in history. So it is a shame. Obviously, though, they are from a perspective of like individual soldiers, or really far down, we're talking about company level stuff like that. So it is quite in depth. But if you like that sort of thing, if you already know kind of what happens with the Battle of Stalingrad, then this is really great. And it's also on combat engineering. Not ideal, but that's the best I can do, unfortunately. Daniel Anderson has said, I would like to see a video detailing why shrinking markets and Hitler weren't well understood. I've already done that video. However, I got a lot of negative feedback, again, from that sort of video. So I am now working behind the scenes on a bigger video going way more in depth than I did previously. And I'm also going to be tackling a lot of the criticism that I received, but I won't get into that today. I will be doing that in the future. Carry on. Are you familiar with someone named Frank McClin? And if so, what do you think of his works? I'm reading his book on the Burma campaign in World War II, and as a more casual reader of history, I'm wondering if I should bother to try and find other works that detail the theatre. Which honestly I'd only do if he has a big axe to grind, which as far as I can tell he doesn't, or if he's likely to miss a lot. Looking around, there is a lot of praise of his works, but not much of it is about World War II. Each edit, I suspect it is a love letter to General Slim. Okay, I've not actually read that book. I've looked into Frank McClin, and the reason why I haven't really read his works is because, apart from the Burma one, the only other book that would be relevant to anything that I've covered so far would be his book, which it mentions Hitler in the title, I think. And it's like, okay, so it's from some way back in the past to Hitler. And it's like, okay, so maybe that might be relevant. So they're the only two books that are relevant. And I've not done a video on the Burma campaign, and his book, which mentions Hitler, isn't specifically about Hitler, and to me is a little bit vague. So I don't think I'd touch that. So that's the reason why. However, what I would say, so you say, as a more casual reader of history, I'm wondering if I should bother to try and find other works that detail the theatre. My advice to anyone now who wants to read something on history, my advice is that you try and read at least 2 books on a particular subject. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do that with everything. What I would say is, hey, if you really like the Burma campaign, then read 2 books on it. If you're just a casual reader, you just want to, okay, fine, read 1 book and be done with it. But if you like that particular subject and you think, oh, maybe I should read a second book, or you're not certain, definitely read the second book. And the reason why is because history is about the debate. It's not about one guy's perspective, right? So even though you're watching this channel now, I 100% recommend that you watch every other history channel as well, or as many as you possibly can stomach, because it's all about the opposite perspectives. You need, if somebody's criticising me, fine, go ahead and do it. And if somebody's criticising Frank McLean or praising him, fair enough. The whole point is you've got to get in that debate, and you don't get the debate if you just got one guy's opinion. Even as a casual reader of history, I would also recommend that you specialise. So even though it depends how you see the term casual. If you're like, I can only read one book a year, so in the next 10 years you're going to read 10 books, I would still say, well, maybe you just read 10 books on one topic, specialise. And the reason why is, again, you don't get the full perspective. There's no point reading one book on a topic. You've got to read several. And so even as a casual reader of history, it might be better to specialise, or at least say, okay, I don't live forever, so I've only got a limited amount of time to read. Therefore, I don't really want to waste time reading about topics that, maybe I'll only pick up the once and never read again. I may as well specialise. That's the way I look at it. And so, if you like World War II, fine, narrow it down to like a battle or a campaign and just focus on that. Or if you like, I like modern history, it's like, okay, what about modern history do you like? I really like the interwar period. Okay, focus on the interwar period, whatever it is that catches your boat. But I would really, really highly recommend you read at least 2 books on the topic, because again, it's about that debate, and you don't really get that if you're just focusing on one author. And you could like one author and focus on what he's doing or she's doing, but I would actually recommend that you get a different perspective. So there's no point reading 2 books on the same battle by the same author. You've got to try and read at least 2 perspectives there. And if you're casual in the sense of, I just pick up a random book every so often, I would then say maybe you should structure it a little bit more and focus, because again, it's about that debate. And I don't know about General Slim. I've not looked at the Burma campaign because I do specialise on the European theatre of World War II. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Again, I'm going to do some more videos later this week because I've answered 3 questions. I need to answer a lot more. So short video, but necessary, I think. So there we go. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye for now.